Hello, sisters, and welcome to another episode of Kitchen Table Talks. I am your host, Dr. Jacqueline Jarl, along with your other host, Mrs. Olivia Cream. And today I'm actually very excited to talk about the topic today, which is finding your purpose. This is such an important thing in life. And to be completely honest, I think for most of us, we might think that our purpose is one thing, but our true purpose is something else. And the reason why we think that our purpose is not our true, what our current purpose is because we get told, right? Ever since we're children, we get told we get expectations from parents, from other adults, maybe even teachers, right? Who say, "Oh, you're really good at this. You should be that." So we're gonna dive, into that and how Olivia and I personally were able to find our purpose through the military, through corporate America, and then of course through financial freedom and early retirement. So, Olivia, I don't know about you, but I know that when I was a little, like my purpose was to be a housewife. That was what my parents, right, have told me. As an Asian female, your purpose is to obviously go to school, get good grades, go to a good college, but really your main purpose in life was to get married and have children, right? That was kind of the ideology, you can say, that was instilled in my brain. Thankfully I figured out very quickly that I would not be good at a housewife. I mean, you know me pretty
You'd be
well.
the worst
I can't.
housewife
Yes,
ever.
I would be the worst housewife ever, right? I don't know how to cook. I'm not really good at cleaning. And it's not that you can't learn those things, but like I'm just not talented in it, right? And I don't enjoy doing it. It's funny because the other day, my partner Craig was like, he had a work call that was going long, and I'm like, okay, fine, I'll make dinner. And
Oh boy.
in the middle of making dinner, his work call ends, and he comes out, and then he literally says, every time you have to cook, you just look so angry, right? Like and that's the thing, is because I don't enjoy doing it, right? And
Mhm.
the other part of that is it doesn't taste good after it comes out. So yeah. So again, for me, right, I think like my purpose in childhood and pretty much what I carried with me all the way through college, I think, was to be this like housewife person that I was going to be very bad at. So I don't know about you from like your childhood, if you were, kind of told what to be and told that, hey, like your purpose in life is to be, this one thing and to serve other people.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I have a slightly different take, but I resonate with everything that you're saying, JJ. So, let me just set the stage. So, I grew up in the 80s in rural Jamaica. And like not in the bush or anything. We lived in a decent sized town, but it's well away from all the touristy areas. So we lived up in the hills. I lived on a farm. And if you know anything about Jamaica, Jamaican society is very patriarchal, right? I think a lot of Asian society
Mhm.
is very much that way as well. And so everything I naturally was attracted to, like I wanted to play soccer. I got told girls don't play football. That's what they call soccer in Jamaica. Girls don't play football. I was like, oh yeah, I'll check this out. Um, I like to tinker with cars, right? I would always be out there with my uncles trying to figure out what they were doing under the hood of the car. I got told girls don't do that. Girls aren't engineers, like they don't do that. Why don't you ever want to wear your hair in pigtails with little ribbons? And don't you want to go bake something? Or don't you want? And I was like, no, 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 no. Like I'm uninterested in all of those things. So fast forward, I'll be a little bit vulnerable here, but somewhere around middle school, Of course, you're starting to, in my case, starting to want to dress up, starting to want to get into some of those cute little things. You know, boys start to make an appearance. And I had this fight one day with my dad because I wanted to go to the eighth grade dance and he did not want me to go. And he said to me during that fight, this was a pivotal moment for me, that I was going to end up barefoot and pregnant because I wanted to go to this dance. So in my mind, and this is because of the way I'm wired, I was like, oh, really? And I went hardcore opposite direction. I was like, I'm never having kids. I'm not getting married. I'm not going to have anybody tell me what to do. I'm going to control my own finances. Like, sending middle fingers to everyone and everything that thought that they could cage me into what they wanted me to be. So I kind of, because of my environment and I guess my rebellious spirit, I went hardcore left. And the interesting thing about that is it served as the foundation for a lot of my decisions as an adult. And that brought me to places that, shocker, did not serve me.
Mhm.
Did not serve me, right? It accomplished the mission I had set out for myself, which was to be independent, not have anybody tell me what to do, and certainly not end up barefoot and pregnant. But I was miserable, JJ, because
Yeah.
of this mission that I had set myself on when I was what, 9, 10? I don't, yeah, I don't know. So it's
Yeah.
so funny how whether it's directly your environment is telling you sacrifice, serve others, do this, do that, or something in your environment triggered your rebellious spirit and you're like, I'm not doing that. And then you just stuck to that for the good majority of your life. Our environments and our traumas certainly, I think, put us on this path that we have to unlearn.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's I mean, I'll just throw out some stat here. I think based on research for, adverse childhood events is what they call it, right? ACE. And it doesn't include bullying, right? It doesn't include a lot of the things that you experience outside of your home. Most of the questions, I think it's a 10 questions survey that they sent out, and it's like 67% of adults have at least one or more of these adverse childhood events that
Mhm.
essentially is childhood trauma. And again, it doesn't include bullying, right, and things like that. It's only like if your parents were divorced, or if you ever saw your parents fight, or maybe an abusive, right, relationship between your parents and things like that. So I think the childhood piece, the childhood trauma piece, definitely shape us in our adulthood, and it's so like so many people have it. It's pretty much like everyone has it, right?
Yeah.
Like if
Yeah.
you think about, if like divorce is one of the criteria, and the divorce rate is so high in the United States, and yeah, so the childhood piece, I think, I think like you, I was just a little bit later. I came out with like the rebellious thing. So in college, after I, obviously left my parents' house and went to college at a military academy, right? It was a total change in environment. And they had their own things that they wanted me to do, right, in order to be a successful officer and in all of these things. And I think that's really when I turned rebellious. And
Mm.
like you, I was like, I'm never getting married. Like, I'm not having kids. I'm going to be financially independent. I'm not going to depend on anyone. And that's kind of where I turned that corner,
Mhm.
right or wrong. But and then and then when I enter the military, like I would say my purpose, the military and corporate, right? I would say my purpose, because I didn't know any better, turned out to be the purpose of the organization, right? That was kind of what I aligned myself to, because I didn't have anything else. Like nobody was telling me, oh, like what do you really want to be when you grow up, right? You hear that a lot.
Mhm.
And I was like, well, West Point told me that I needed to be the best officer ever, so I'm going to be the best officer ever, right? And that was kind of what I was going for is I'm going to do everything in my power. Like, doesn't matter how many hours I need to be awake and all of that. Like, I'm going to be the number one, like, lieutenant. I'm going to be the number one captain, right, of my organization. And our OERs reflected that, right? Because you are stacked ranked against your peers.
Hmm.
So, like I would essentially burn I burned out like fast, right? I mean, I was only in there for five and a half in the army for 5.5 years. So I burnt out fast. I like hurt myself because I didn't have the proper like training for my body. Like I was a golfer before I went to West Point. Right. And then like within the first 6 weeks, you were rucking, 40 pounds up and down mountains. Like I was like, what? I'm confused. I'm confused why this is happening. And then, I had the thyroid issue
Yeah.
at school as well. Again, this is all just your body, right? Telling you, hey, like, stop, right? Like, warning, warning. But did I listen? Of course not. I continued, to be, hey, I want to be the number one in that. And then when I joined corporate, I was like, I'm going to be the best employee, right? Like, that was just my mindset. Like, I internalized, right, whatever the organization wanted me to be. And like I was miserable. Same thing, right? Like I was when I left the military, like I had PTSD, I was severely depressed. Like towards
Mm.
the last, I would say 3 to 6 months of my time in the military, every time like every day, every single day, I would go to work and then I would come home and I would cry for like 2 hours,
Oh my
right?
gosh.
Like severely depressed. And then, I mean, that was, but I still, like, again, I didn't have a mentor, right? Nobody really kind of told me or taught me or even asked me, like, well, what does your ideal life look like? Like, how do you want to live? Not how other people want you to live, but how do you want to live? Like, what makes you happy? No one has ever asked me that, right? Like in childhood, Asian parents don't really care about that stuff, right? Like
I'll
they're,
say,
they're
make it you're like happy, you better
like
go
happiness.
study.
Right. Right, exactly. And it's always like children are seen, not heard. And you're expected
Yes.
to behave, you're expected to be like the model citizen, right? The model children, you're expected to get good grades. And it's just, they're like, just do whatever I tell you to do, as, parents, and you'll be successful. Like that was kind of the right. So that really never went away from like just do what someone in a position of power or in a position of authority tell you to do, and you'll be successful. And I carried that with me, right, for pretty much my entire adult life until I crash and burn real hard from a mental, standpoint. Um, and then really had to figure out what I wanted to do for myself, what I wanted to be, for myself and not for any other organization, any other authority, right? Or any other power, person of power, right? So what about you? Like your time in the military and corporate, like did you feel that way or did you had to figure out?
Exactly this exactly the same, JJ. And there were a couple things I was like trying to keep mental notes as you were going
Yeah.
out because everything that you said, I was like, oh yes, oh yes. I wanted to add to that. But there are a couple things that you hit on that I kind of want to go deep in for my own story. One, it was like taking on the organization's mission.
Yeah.
Right. So I was a coastie. So as a Coast Guard engineer, my mission was I was going to be the best officer. I was going to take care of my people. And as
Yeah.
an engineer, when I left the Coast Guard, I had just done my engineer officer tour. And so as an engineer, I was like, we will never miss movement because of the engineers. That was my mission. I was like, the organization says we need to be the best. Define best is that whenever the CEO or what CEO, whenever the CO, the captain says we got to go, that boat needs to be able to go, right? That was my definition or how I operationalize the best,
Right.
right? And then when I left the Coast Guard, and joined the civilian space, still that competitive spirit, because that was instilled in my childhood as an immigrant, right? It's like you have to work twice as hard, you have to be
Yep.
twice as smart, you have to be the best in order to
Yep.
have any chance of success because of who you are, what you look like, and where you've come from, right? So my whole life I've had that drum beat into me. Like you have to be the best, otherwise you're gonna get left behind. And in my mind, that meant I was gonna end up barefoot. And pregnant, right? Like you
Yeah.
see how all these things like
Yep.
create this like story in your mind. So when I left the military, which was actually good for me in terms of structure, I needed the structure to be like, all right, what game am I playing? Do I know the rules of the game? And once I know the rules of the game, I can play to win, right? Like that's just
Yep.
kind of how my mind works. So when I left the military and became a civilian, I was like, I do not know the rules to this game.
Mhm.
And therefore defaulted to being like, all right, whatever position I'm in, I'm just going to be the best at
Yep.
that. Right? Like it just defaulted again to just be the best at that. Like no one's going to outwork you. No one's going to out hustle you. Like no one's going to be better. Like, your performance review at the end of the year has to be like top notch.
Yep.
So every day I would look at that thing to make sure I'm like hitting the goals that they set forth. And what's interesting when you live your life that way, think like even I'm hearing myself say it now, and I was like, oh my God, you're so dumb. But
Yes.
like listening
A
to
hundred
myself say
percent.
it now, because if your mission is no one's gonna outwork me, what's your reward for that? It's more damn work, not
Yep.
more pay, not more life. It's more work, right? Like you've
Yep.
literally just set yourself up to get more work. And as far as your employee evaluation, okay, again, being the best and doing whatever necessary in your head to be the best in that role, you're bringing a ton of opportunity for your company. You're returning their investment and you quadruple. And what do you get? 3% annual increase year over year
Mhm.
if you're lucky,
Mhm.
maybe 4% if you're lucky. And oh, by the way, from a stats perspective, and you can go look this up, high performers tend to get rewarded with more work. It doesn't
Yes.
necessarily automatically result in promotions, right? This is the little corporate games that we
Mhm.
play. But what you do is you work yourself into more work. So everything that I had laid out for myself as a purpose, as a mission, set me down a path to be miserable.
Yeah.
Right. And then we turn around. This is a hilarity, ladies. Then we turn around and we're like, my boss this and my company that and my this, that, and the other. And the reality is, even if you shift companies, you're gonna have the same problem because it's not them, my love, it's you. It's you,
Yep. Yep.
right? It's the missions that we set for ourselves. So I think everything that you said, 100% spot on, Jacqueline. And you talked about being depressed. And the scary part about me is I think I was depressed for probably like 3, 4 years, and I didn't even recognize it as
Yeah.
depression. And the reason I didn't recognize it as depression is because it wasn't until like super late in life. You guys, like I'm 43 now. I'm not ashamed to say that. Like growing old is a privilege as far as I'm concerned. But like in my 40s, maybe like late 30s, when I started to meet some other folks and appreciate different ways of thinking. And someone said to me that feelings are facts. And I was like, girl, no. Like feelings are not like what are you even talking about? Like feelings are
Yeah.
feelings are not that. But now that I look back on it, JJ, the only truth that we have is how we feel.
Mhm.
If your job is making you miserable, you're misaligned. If your home environment is making you miserable, you're misaligned. And the only way to figure out your purpose is to sit down and feel some shit,
Yeah.
because the rest of it is societal programming. And God bless, I am not smart enough to know how to unwire us when you've been hardwired a certain way since childhood. But what I do know is when we stop for a second, and this is so hard for high performing women, and I would assume it's hard for high performing men as well. I'm not a man, so I can't say that for a fact. But for high performing women, I know this for a fact. It is so hard for us to stop and be like, how do I feel? How do
Mhm.
I feel when I'm chasing being the best in this irrelevant job that I could give two shits about, but I have to be the best. So let me like burn
Yeah.
myself out to be it. How do I feel when I'm forced to fire half my team because the company just restructured and it, like it keeps me awake at night? How do I feel when I have a big executive job and I'm on an airplane 4 times a week? I come home, I don't have any energy for my husband, I don't have any energy for the pets, I don't have any energy to do things that bring me joy. How do I feel? And the reality is, asking yourself that simple question will lead you to your purpose.
Yeah.
I don't know how you feel.
Yeah. I mean, this is so like, it goes back, first of all, it goes back to our childhood and how we are programmed, right? And then also our brain, like how our brain is like wired to keep us in survival, right? And not in growth. So our brains are, even though it doesn't serve us and it might even be bad for us, but if it's comfort, right? If it's familiar, our brain will always choose the familiarity and the comfort over something that is new that it has no idea what the outcome might be, right? Like it's literally sending red flags like, I do not know where this road leads. So let's just go back to the other one, even though the other one leads to burnout, leads to, whatever. But at least I know where it goes, right? Versus the other one, it's like, I don't know if this one ends, in a cliff and we just fall down or whatever. And again, it's because we've been wired that way since we are like since kids, right? Since we're children. And I know for me for a fact in and again this is in Asia and it might be different now because of the different generational ways that they raise children, right? But like nobody cared about your feelings
No.
when I was growing up. Like and if you were to say, right, that oh, I don't like that or I feel sad or I feel something, right? They're like just suck it up. Like, just do what I tell you, suck it up, right? So we're trained to not express our feelings. We're trained to not feel
Yes.
as a child. And we just carry that with us, right? Because again, it's not good for us, right? Because the more you bottle up feelings, the more you're going to have issues like depression and mental health, right? And things like that. But it's what we know. It's how we've lived for 20, 30, 40 years, right? So for our brains to recognize that, oh, like there's something else that you can do. There's feelings. Like I don't know feelings. Let's not do that. Right? It's literally like your brain is convincing you to not do it because it doesn't know where it leads.
JJ, you're like, we have to take a second to dig deep into this because you're so spot on. Your brain is not your friend. I
Yeah.
mean, it really isn't, you
Yeah.
guys. Like, and you might be like, what? Like, what do you mean? Like, I love my brain, especially if you're doing some big things. Yes, go ahead, love it. But what I mean, it's specific to this conversation of finding your purpose. Your brain is not your friend because, like JJ said, it it forms these habit loops, right? It forms these neuron loops from a neuroscience perspective. And this is all well documented, you guys. Like,
Yeah.
don't take our words for it. We tend to not say things unless there's some scientific evidence behind it. So please do yourself a favor and Google search this yourself, and you'll find articles about this. Your brain creates neuron loops based on things that have happened. And it's like, okay, if this, then that, if this, then that, right? And when you listen to your feelings and you're like, man, I don't love what I do every day. Just this does not bring me joy. Or maybe it's like this one small part of my job like sets my heart on fire. Everything else I effing hate,
Mhm.
right? And so you're like, all right, like, can I lean into this one small part of my job? Or maybe it's something you do outside of work that sets your heart on fire, where you like forget to eat, sleep, like you just love what you're doing and your brain's like, girl, like you better go
Yep.
get this bag because you got bills to pay. And I don't know what's going on over here, but we know you're about to get a paycheck if you go do to this thing. And what do? We fall into that comfort. So when JJ says your brain will choose comfort, what she means is not necessarily that you're comfortable. You could be hella miserable. When I mean hella, like both of us just said that we were severely
Yeah.
depressed and we pressed on anyways because it's what we have been trained to do. Squish those feelings down. There's no quit in us. There, like you just pick the fight. You push, 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 push until you get to where you want. But where the hell are you going? Where are you
Mhm.
going? Right? And the reality is your feelings are trying to tell you, no, 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 don't do that. Go where it feels good, but your brain is like, I don't know where that path leads. And
Right.
even though this doesn't feel good, we know the outcome, so let's do this.
Yes.
Right? So
Yep.
that comfort could be comfort in misery because it's a familiar thing.
Hmm.
Right? So
Yes.
when we say comfort, don't take it like, oh my God, you're happy and you like feel good. No, 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 no. More
No.
than likely
Yeah.
you're unhappy and you don't feel
Yeah.
good at all, but it's comfortable to you because it's the devil that you know. Right? The devil that you know is always, as far as your brain is concerned, better than an unknown path. But the reality is, here's what happens for our younger ladies. So we'll just give you the scoop on the, well, I could give you the older scoop. JJ's still kind of a baby. Um, but for us older ladies, I wish somebody would have told me as you get older, you give less F's. I promise you, you do. Like, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the hormones, maybe we're perimenopausal. I don't fucking know.
Yeah.
But you really give less F's. And when you start to give less F's about other people's opinion, guess what starts to happen? All those little Tupperware containers that you put your feelings in and you buried it down over the years, now they're starting to bob to the top. And you're like, ooh, oh, gross. That doesn't feel
Yep.
good. This isn't great. And now you're starting to process these things. And when things happen in your work life, in your career life, you're like, oh, that feels a whole lot like this. And I don't want that feeling anymore.
Yeah.
The feelings start to become more important. And then weird, what happens? Your purpose starts to reveal itself because now you're chasing the things that you do with ease. The things that your brain craves, the thing that lights your heart up, that gives you butterflies in your stomach, even though you may not have done anything like it in your degree may not have anything to do with it like mine, but you're chasing that feeling and that ultimately leads you to your purpose.
Yeah. And maybe we can give some examples, right? Of like, what are some signs? Because it's no one's gonna like your body's not gonna straight up, come out and tell you, oh my gosh, you're not, you don't enjoy this, like you're not happy, right? Like your body's not gonna tell you that, right? So what are some signs for me, right? These were the signs that kind of led me to recognize that this is not the life that I want to live. And obviously number one is the whole like depression thing, right? It's just like I'm like this should not be normal. Like that after you get off work, you cry for 2 hours every day, right? That like it should not be normal. So that was obviously a very clear sign that something is wrong, right? That you probably need to do something about that. In corporate, I think it's harder because there's not any clear signs. I think for me, it was more like I would wake up and I would dread going to work,
Mhm.
right? Like, and like I worked from home, right? So since 2018, I've worked from home, and it's like it was my office was 5 steps from my bedroom, and when I woke up, I would be like, ugh, like I really don't want to do this. Like, I really don't want to log into my computer and go have this meeting about whatever it is that I'm having. Right. So that was, and that probably went on for a year or so for me at the end, right. Before my body, I should say, ultimately broke down and I had these daily migraines, like literally 2 hours after I started work, I would have these daily migraines, like debilitating. Like I literally would need to go in a room, like no lights, right? And like the windows and stuff. So I literally have to cover my head with the blanket so that there were no lights like filtering through
Mhm.
for hours until I would feel better. Okay, so that was another sign is something like your body is telling you, hey, like something is going on, like you should not be doing this. So those were two of the things, right? That now looking back on it, of course, during the time, at the time I did not recognize that.
Mhm.
But now looking back on it is like I felt like I did not want to go to work, right? It was, I had to literally drag myself out of bed and go to work, right? That was kind of the initial sign. And of course, I didn't listen to it and I just kept doing it and doing it and doing it
Push, push,
until
push.
my body was like, "Oh yeah? Okay." And then it gave me these migraines. So I don't know, like what signs did you have, right, to tell you that you were not living your purpose?
Yeah, the existential dread is a sure sign.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, I think, you saying that is taking me back to specific moments over the course of my career, and it's not attached to one specific company.
Yeah.
It's the dread of having to wake up and get on another plane. It's the dread of having to fight for a seat at the table in another bullshit corporate like meeting. It's the dread of having to put together a 12-page slide deck that I gave two shits about, right? It's
Yeah.
the um dread of having to tell someone that we just restructured again, right? It's our fault. We have failed them as leaders because our
Yep.
strategy wasn't good. And now we have restructured yet again, and they are going to lose their livelihood after having worked with us for 30 years. It's like, it's that stuff. And outside of the existential dread and not feeling good about the work I was doing, I was also having things like I didn't know what to call them at the time, but they were mini panic attacks, right?
Mm.
And if you would have asked me in the moment, I'd be like, I don't get panic attacks. Like, what am I, a snowflake? Like, I don't get panic attacks. I was totally getting panic attacks, JJ, like totally having them. And I would have these moments where I would have to deliver a message that I was not aligned to, that I did not think was the right thing to do, but I had to stand up in front of a group of
Mhm.
people and deliver it like it was my own. And I would literally, like, if you go back and look at me in presentations or on stage, I wore a lot of black because I would literally sweat through my clothes. Like my body was so I had stuffed down the anxiety and the panic attacks so deep that it just came out in sweat. Like I would just sweat through my clothes because I had to be stoic on the outside, but inside
Yeah.
my body was like, ah, like, what is happening?
Yeah.
So it was the like sweatiness for me, frankly. It was the existential dread. And then I had like severe exhaustion. So, much like you, I'm a push, 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 right? So if I get up and I have something to do, I'm like, we're just gonna friggin' power through it. We're just gonna get this
Yeah.
thing done, come hell or high water. And I would, pay the consequences later. So when I was at home, on the weekends, I would sleep until
Mm.
like 11. And my husband would hate it so much because I am, an early riser, but I would sleep so deep into the day because my soul was exhausted. Like it
Yeah.
wasn't just like, oh, I'm tired. It was like I had betrayed my soul all week. And now it was so tired, it wanted to do nothing but lay. Like, if it wasn't for my husband, I could seriously lay in my dark bedroom all day and be
Yeah.
fine with it, like all day. So, those were the little signs. And the weight gain. Let's not
Oh
forget
yes.
that. Like put
Yep.
on a
Yep.
bunch of weight. Of course, drinking wine every night probably contributed to said weight gain. But yes, there was like the battle with my weight as well because my hormones were all
Right.
like out of sorts, right? So there were these subtle little signs. And as I got closer to pivoting out of corporate, I started to get headaches as well. Not quite as debilitating as yours, but they would pop up right here. And I'm like,
Yep.
what is happening? Did I not drink enough water? Did I, right? Like we look for solutions to these problems when the root of the problem is that we're not behaving in alignment with our purpose, and everything is screaming at us to change course, but we don't understand the language because we were never taught to listen to it.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's like, here's the mission, go accomplish the mission, right? And again, like the mission that your brain gives you, right, is to keep you in survival mode, right? Is It's not to help you grow, it's not to help you be to help you innovate, right? And things like that. Something you said brought up. So when I was having these migraines, and I had it would just happen to be at the same time I had my like annual physical, where you
Mhm.
do like all your blood work, and things like that. And my thyroid level was actually off, like by quite a bit. And again, like, because it's the hormonal, like I had the thyroid issue, ever since college, so I'm on a hormone supplement, right? So I take a pill, every day. But like, because your body changes, and all these like other hormones are at play when you're burnt out, when you're stressed, right, and things like that, like your thyroid responds to that by either producing more hormone or producing less hormone, based on like what your brain, your pituitary gland really is telling
Mhm.
it. Right. So when I went and got this blood test, my levels were off, because I was like severely stressed and had these migraines, and things like that. And then my doctor's like, okay, well, let's like wait, right? Because she's like, all right, you're gonna go on a leave of absence, okay, and then let's wait a month to see if your levels settle. And if it doesn't, then we can, you know, figure out what to do with your medication and things like that. And lo and behold, after I've been on leave for a month, I go get the blood test. Everything was normal. Right. So it's like, if we hadn't done that, she probably would have like upped my dosage for the medication, right? And things like that. And I didn't really need that. It was just my body responding to
Yep.
the environment. So that's also something, right, to note is like, if your levels are off, but you're severely either depressed or stressed or something like that, it's like, don't always go towards the medication, right?
Mhm.
Like I think a lot of doctors now are what I call our dealers and not healers. And
Yes.
they're so fast to prescribe you something if something on your blood work doesn't turn out right. But like, every medication has side effects, right? Every
Yes.
single one has side effects. So it's, if you can make some lifestyle changes, to not have to be on medication, that obviously would be the best. Like, our body actually has very, very significant healing powers, right? But you have to allow it to heal. And most of the time, this is like, and I read this on like a study, is if you are stressed, if your cortisol level is high during the day, like, it doesn't just go away at night, right? Like, and at night is the main time, when like when we're sleeping, is when our body is healing itself. But because your cortisol levels are so high, like, you're actually preventing your body from healing itself.
Mhm.
So that's, I think, what's important is to let people know, like, don't just let doctors give you pills. Okay, because it's not good for you. Every pill has a side effect, or one or more side effects. So always, I think, always go for the lifestyle, change before you let people give you pills. Okay, so so maybe, I know we've been chatting for a while now. So maybe we can talk about like how we were able to find our purpose, after all of the stuff that we went through, the childhood trauma, the military stuff, the corporate stuff. How were you able to, like, find your purpose, right? Like, what did you do? Did you fall into it? Did you just discover it? Did you have to do work, right, to actually find what that purpose really is for you?
Yeah, so I'm gonna give you a convoluted answer. So don't judge because these things aren't like we want these
Yep.
finite answers. We want these cookie cutter, just do this and you'll find it, like this roadmap. And ladies, it does not work that way. And so my short answer is I don't know that I have found my purpose, but what I have found is what I don't want, right?
Yes.
What I do know is what impacts me, what behaviors, what environments, what people um, impact me negatively that I no longer want any part of. And I think that is helping me embrace my purpose. And I say embrace my purpose because at this point in life, after I have done some work, and I'll get to that in a second, I don't believe your purpose is something to find. You are already your purpose. Your body
Yeah.
will tell you when you're on the right path, when you're doing the thing that the superpower that you've been given by the divine, by
Yep.
God or whoever you believe in. We all got a superpower, right? And it's that thing that you do with ease. It's that passion burning in your belly. It's the thing that you always talk about, but you haven't allowed yourself the time and space to fully go try it because you have bills, you don't have time, the kids, the this, the that, blah, 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 blah. And they're all like good excuses. But ladies, let's just be honest, they're friggin' excuses, right? Like
Yep.
we all have that thing. We all do, right? But we stuff it down or we push it to the side or we label it a pipe dream or we label it, whatever, and default to our societal programming. So as far as my journey to purpose, I would say this. What I learned is to surrender.
Mm.
And oh my God. Let me just tell you, I like even embracing the word right now, you see me still like hesitate to embrace it because it is like anti everything I have been taught. I was groomed, I groomed myself, like it's anti everything I've ever been taught. And so in the surrender, when I give myself time and space to be still and to actually give relevance to my feelings will tell me which direction to go every single time. Every single time. And the tricky thing as I'm going through my own journey here is sometimes you're like, oh, yeah, my feelings are telling me I should go do this thing. Like, I have the skills to do it. I should blah, blah, blah. But it's like, do I really want to do this thing? Or am I seeking validation? Is this some
Right.
people pleasing tendency? Is this my need to be the best talking? Or is that really me, like little Olivia sitting in a corner with my superpower talking? Or is it something else that's making me think that this thing is a good thing to do? So to get there, like first of all, God bless if you can figure this stuff out on your own. I need help. I'm not even gonna lie. Like I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I need help. Okay. So it took a mentor of mine to look at me and be like, "Girl, you're still crazy as hell." And I was like, "What do you mean? I'm great." And she's like, "No, you're not." It's like,
Yep.
no, you're not. And so I had a mentor that like she got me from a business perspective because I'm such a mission oriented person. Like I was off on some like goofy mission to make a bunch of money that I didn't need. That was just going to further burn me out, further
Yep.
stress me out. But at the time, I thought it was a great idea. So she got me with that, but then she started to ask me questions to help me understand my default neuron loops that were caused by trauma.
Yep.
And once I understood how my brain would default to these neuron loops because of the things that have happened to me, I could stop it and be like, I don't actually really want that. This is a trauma response. Let me sit, let me meditate, let me calm my nerves, let me take 2 days, 3 days, 5 days, a month to figure out if I actually want this thing that I think that I
Mhm.
want or not. And JJ, everybody's going to be like, you guys are on some woo woo shit. And I remember, 5 years ago when I would have been saying the same shit, you guys are on some woo woo shit.
Yep.
But the truth is, there's power in that stillness. And when like this world forces you to continue to move, forces you to make these quick decisions, forces you to always want to execute, forces you to want to check something off your checklist. I was the number one offender. Like, give me a good checklist. I like
Yep.
crossing it off, like gave me such like dopamine. It was such satisfaction to cross something off my checklist.
Mhm.
When you stop and you ask yourself, girl, why do you even have that checklist? You
Right.
get this. No idea. It's a checklist. It's awesome. I got something to do, right? So the stillness, first, find a coach. Like, I'm not soliciting for me or JJ. I don't care who you find, but find a coach. You cannot do this by yourself. At least if you're like me, you can't do it by. If you can, God bless. Come on the show. I would love to hear from you how you did it by yourself. I couldn't figure it out. I found a coach. That coach helped me see, like, held up a mirror to me. That's all she really did. It was just held up a mirror through asking me questions that I couldn't answer for myself because I was doing some nonsense that did not serve me, right? So find a coach to ask you the right questions and then do the work. And the work really feels like no work. It feels like just being still. It feels like just meditating. It feels like giving yourself an opportunity to hear the voice that you spent decades silencing and stuffing down in those Tupperware containers. That is the voice that's going to lead you to where you need to be. No one else is going to tell you. You have all the answers. You just have to figure out how to access that little voice that lives inside of you.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, that's so powerful. For me, I think, have I figured out what my purpose is? I would say yes, but it's, let me just say this. It's a lot easier when you don't have to worry about money, right? Same
Yes.
thing that you brought up.
Yes.
It's a lot easier when you know that at the end of the month, all your bills are going to be paid, regardless of if you go to a corporate job or not.
Yes.
Or if if you run your own business or something like that. So I think financial freedom like really allows you the mental capacity to do this work, right?
Yes.
Otherwise, you're just worrying about, can I put food on the table, right? And again, that's the survival mode, right? Is if you're concerned about whether or not you're going to be able to put food on the table or pay your bills, right? Like if my water is going to get cut off or my electricity is going to get cut off, it does not allow you to be in a mental state to do this work, because everything that you're going to put down on paper is going to reflect the survival instinct.
Yes.
So, for me, I think I kind of learned like what I enjoy and what I like to do, like throughout, my like army time and also my corporate time. Um, and I actually was able to get my degrees in the things that I actually was passionate about, right? So my master's is in teaching, and my doctor is in education. So like I knew from very early on, like in the army, that like I loved education. Like that was, kind of what it was. I loved the sharing of knowledge. But I did not want to be like a researcher, right? Like I
Mhm.
didn't want to be someone who like researched things. I wanted to be someone who like did the knowledge sharing. But it took me a while to get to the money piece, right? Because I myself was not good with money. so in like again, like when I left the military, like I was broke. I was on my ass, and didn't have any income, didn't have anywhere to live. Like I literally bounced around, between my parents and their friends. I bounced around their houses for like a good 7, 8 months, before I got a job, and was able to afford my own apartment, right? And all of those things. So it took me not until, so I got out of the army in December of 2013, and like officially, but I because I had leave, so I actually was like out of the army in October. So I had my DD 214 in hand in October of 2013, even though I continued to get paid until December because I had all these leave dates accrued. And when I joined corporate, it was the same thing. It was like whenever I was teaching, right? Whenever I was building curriculum, I was the happiest. I was like, oh, I love this. Like I spent hours on it and I would not feel tired, right?
Mm.
So that's how I was like, okay, I have to do something that's in learning and development, right? That's education focused. And I actually kind of knew this because even from very young, when we would get money for like Lunar New Year and allowance and things like that, like I was always like kind of good with my money. And this is like my dad actually played bank with us, and he's like, if I give you money and you give it back to me, I will, like, as your bank, I will give you a 2% interest on all the money that you give me. And this was his way of teaching us, right, about compounding
Yeah.
interest and things like that. And I was always pretty good with like saving because I didn't have and I still don't, a lot of material wants. Like my sister, on the other hand, she was like a shoes and bags, and she would always spend all her money, even when we were children, and she would borrow money from me. So my dad would be like, okay, this is debt now. So my dad would put a 2% interest on the debt, whatever money she borrowed from me. Right. So
Yeah.
I kind of knew that. But then in college and in the military, I just like, again, because I was severely depressed, right? And it was not a good environment for me. I just kind of let it go by the wayside. Like essentially, I was using money to buy happiness.
Mm.
And money cannot buy happiness. We all know this. Money cannot buy you happiness. Happiness comes from within. So when I buy something, I would get that dopamine hit for maybe a day or two, and then I would repeat the cycle, right? Because once that dopamine came down, I'd be like, oh, I got to go get something else. So I was like overspending because I was trying to get these short dopamine hits, when in reality, right, like it was something within that I needed to work on.
Yeah.
A little bit of tangent there, but yeah. So when I was in corporate, my very last job in corporate, I ran a development program, and I was the happiest whenever I was running the development program. Right, like I had to travel. Sometimes I had to present, but really it was more of just the curriculum development, and making sure that we had the right guest speakers, right, for the program. And I really enjoy doing that. So I'm like, okay, that it kind of confirmed, right, that I really needed, like, my purpose was to do this, was the education
Hmm.
piece. And then as I was going on my journey to financial freedom, like I learned a lot about how to manage money properly, how to invest, how to not be broke, essentially. And people ask me about it, and I really enjoy talking about that. I really enjoy sharing the knowledge with people. So that's really how these two things came together, right, to be my purpose. So I did kind of discover it, but it was over like a 10-year time frame. Right. So it wasn't like, I want people to know that it's not like you sit down, you do the work one day, and all of a sudden light bulb goes off and now you have your purpose. Like it doesn't happen that way. You like the work takes time. And if you don't do the work, and for example, like me, when you just kind of like discover it as you go, like it takes a long time for you to actually come into your purpose and discover your purpose. So like, don't get discouraged, I guess, is my message. It does take a long time, and like your experiences will shape, right, your purpose. Like
Oh,
Olivia said, it's not about finding your purpose, it's about finding out what is not your purpose, using the process of elimination. And then you ultimately will find your purpose because you know what you don't want to do.
a
um
100%.
yeah, I mean, and for
And
me
if I
personally,
could,
right.
yeah, and if I could add, so let's get back to this money thing for a
Yeah.
second. My coach and mentor, she laughs at me because she's like, yeah, your money took leaps and bounds before you got your mindset to where it
Yeah.
needed to be. And because I'm such an enigma for her, because usually it's like you figure out your purpose, you figure out the mindset, and then the money follows. But
Yeah.
with me, it was the opposite. Like the money came and it gave me the freedom because now I wasn't stressing about money to
Yeah.
get my mindset
Yeah.
right. Right. And that does not mean that the money is not going to continue to level up, because I feel like there's going to be a part two of this. But for right now, where I am in the journey. So if you are like me and you're still kind of like, this feels bad. I know this isn't good, but I'm not sure where I'm specifically marching to just yet. I would say lean into that, right? Lean into that with the don't make any moves that don't level up your money. If you're
Mhm.
like, ick, this environment, doesn't serve me, or the people that I work with are monsters, or whatever the case may be, and you want to pivot, girl, you better not pivot and take a pay cut. Like, no, ma'am, we do not do that over here, right? Like, you keep the money isn't necessarily the mission, the purpose is the mission. But any move that you make, money needs to be number one or number two in terms of the things that you're focusing on, right? Because if you get yourself to a point, like JJ said, where you're no longer acting out of desperation, your strategy, your feelings, your wants, your true wants and needs become a little bit clearer to you, because you're not operating from a place of, oh my God, I have to pay my bills. So always ask for your worth, negotiate your salaries, do what you need to do to continue to move up, while you also do the work to try to figure out if what you're doing is actually in line with your purpose or not.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, again, like money is never the goal, right? Your quality of life and your purpose is the goal, but you wouldn't be able to do, to reach your goals and to fulfill your purpose unless you obviously can, support yourself and your family financially. And that's just the reality of the world that we live in today, right?
Yep.
There's no free lunch, is what I always say. Is if you want if you want to have this freedom and mindset and everything, then you can't be worrying about, oh well, if I make this choice, then I won't be able to, put food on the table, or if I do this thing, then I won't be able to send my kids to soccer camp, right? Like if money is a worry and a concern, you will never truly live in your purpose, because you're always thinking about the money and not the purpose. So it's heavily intertwined. And I just saw actually a quote. I think it's Warren Buffett. I'm not really sure, but it's like free time without money is pointless, but money without free time is also pointless, right? Or something like that. So it's like those two work hand in hand, and you always have to figure out, okay, like I want to live my purpose, but I have to make sure that I also have the money to be able to do that, right? Because otherwise, if you're like, yo, I'm living my purpose, but there's no money, then you're just back in survival mode, right? That and we all know how our brains work in survival mode.
Yep.
And we don't want to be that. Awesome. Well, this was a great conversation, and I do think we probably will have a round two on this, because it's such deep conversation, and it is what impacts us the most in life, right? Is if we don't know what our purpose is and we're just doing what other people tell us, like you're gonna be miserable. And like take it from me and Olivia, like we've lived it.
Yeah.
We've lived all the trauma, all the burnouts, right? And all of that. Like we've lived it, we've experienced it, and we just hope that through this conversation, that we can save some of you, even if it's just one person, right? If we can save you from that burnout, that those physical ailments, right? And it might be emotional too. Then we're this is why we're doing this, right? We want to bring people, and make sure that they don't go through what we had to go through, because it's tough. Like it really is tough, to have to live through that. But so Olivia, any kind of closing thoughts there on our conversation today?
Yeah, just I think, just to reiterate what you said, JJ, we're trying to save you from yourself, and it really
Yeah.
is from yourself. And realizing that you are the master of your own fate, the captain of your own soul, can be uh exhilarating and also terrifying. But the reality is, one new decision can free you from whatever is ailing you today. So lean into those things that you do with ease, chase those feelings of happiness, of joy, of satisfaction. And if you can't make a move right now, be strategic about it. We're not telling you to go blow up your lives immediately, right? Like, let's be strategic about it. But I promise you, there is a better life out there than the one that we have been told is the one
Mhm.
to strive for. So find that for you. And as always, if you guys enjoyed this conversation, please like, subscribe, share it with someone, bring a sister with you to the next Design Her Sister circle, and follow us on LinkedIn. We'd love to hear from you guys.
Awesome. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.